Okay, so I provided for you the graph paper here with 3 graphs on the side. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to I'll just have you take notes here, and if you don't have a printer and you can't graph these out, well, just make an XY axis. And then you can put some of the numbers that you're going to be using here. Okay, so this is the notes. This first part here on this first video, we're going to see a new family of functions. This is the square root. The square root. Oops, sorry. The square root function. And this is the parent, the most basic form of this function. And you know what you know what the symbol for a square root is, so this should be easy for you. That'll be f of x equals to the square root of x. That's it. This is the parent. So all you got to recognize is what the parent function looks like. And then I'm going to tell you right now what the graph looks like, right? For a square root function, if you kind of see it, kind of looks like, you know, starts a little bottom part and it goes this way. Well, that's kind of how the graph looks. Again, the parent function, let's go over here to graph this, the parent function here now. Let me zoom in a little bit. Right, we know that the vertex is at the origin. And the square root function, if you look at the way this is, and I've seen students do like kind of fast square roots, and they'll be like, you know, they'll do like this, like square root of x, and it looks like this. And they don't really do the little corner. So, well, that's interesting because that's kind of how the graph looks. It actually looks just like this. That's it. It kind of almost looks a little bit the way the symbol looks. Maybe that's why they wrote the symbol like that, because the graph looks like this. Kind of looks like an eyebrow or something like that, right? So that's it. This would be the function of, the parent function of f of x is equal to the square root of x. Now remember, for negative, that we also have negative ones. If you remember parabolas, if it opens up, it's positive x squared. And remember, we say that it's opening down for the negative, but really it's being reflected along the x-axis. So for the negative, if you have a negative in front, well, it starts here, but if you reflect this along the x-axis, right, if I fold it over and I do symmetry like this, this will be the picture for the negative, right? You could say this one's kind of going this way up or to the top, and then it's kind of doing the same thing to the bottom. This is the graph when it has a what? Negative. Not on the inside, remember? On the outside. Out in the front like that. Okay, so you're familiar with the parent functions, right, for a square root. There's the name, here's the function, and here's the graph. All right, so let's graph a couple of them here, because the properties and the characteristics are going to be the same as what you've already learned for quadratics, which are the parabolas, and what you've already learned for the absolute value. So if I have let's see, graph number 1 would be g of x is equal to the square root of x plus 4. Well, let me take that back. I'm sorry. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. The square root of x plus 4. Ooh. You see, this square root is only on the x. It's not, the 4 is like a number out on the outside. Well, this is a vertical shift, right? So I'm going to take my I'm going to take my, I have a pencil here so I can just kind of easily pencil it in like this. And I'm going to take this and move it up 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so you've already known that. F of x is equal to the square root of x plus 4. Oops. The plus 4 is not underneath the square root. The square root of x plus 4. It's kind of tough to see that, right? But if I were to do, and I'll just do another one here. Let me call this h of x is equal to the square root of, now it's x plus 4 like that, and it's under. Remember, if it's inside the parentheses like it was for a parabola, right? Parentheses squared, or absolute value if it's in there. If it's inside and it's contained inside, this is a horizontal shift. If it's not, this plus 4 is your vertical shift, right? But remember, we do the opposite. So if I have the square root of x plus 4, well, that would be, again, here's my parent graph. Here's the parent graph right here, the original one. Right, I'll pencil it and I'll put f of x is equal to the square root of x. That's it, right? This is the parent. This is the parent, and it went up 4, so square root of x plus 4 off to the side. I kind of ran out of paper there, right? But if I'm doing this one, this is a horizontal shift. It's inside. And remember, you do the opposite. So that would be what? Start here, and instead of going to positive 4, you go to what? 1, 2, 3. Right here to negative 4. And then you, well, then you sketch the graph. And this one would be, well, that one there. Okay, let's do a couple here that have both a vertical and a horizontal shift. Okay, last one here. So if we have g of x is equal to the square root of x minus 3 on the inside, and then plus 5. Well, this tells me that it's the square root function, so I know what the graph looks like. This is my vertical shift, right? Any number that's out. This is your vertical translation, and this is what? Horizontal, but we do the opposite. Remember that? Okay. So I pretend I start here, or I'm not going to pretend. You actually do start here with the regular square root of x. Then I'm going to go not to the negative 3. I'm going to do my horizontal. Not to negative 3. You go to positive 3. 1, 2, 3. Is that 1, 2, 3? Yeah. And then what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where the vertex would be. All right, I went 3 this way because you do the opposite, right? Positive. You go to positive 3, and this one you do. If it says plus 5, is up 5. If it's okay, so then you graph it. Okay, and lastly, let's say you have h of x is equal to the square root of x plus 6 minus 4. Well, again, this is our vertical, this is our horizontal. We'll start with this. We're at 0, 0. Instead of going to positive 6, you go to negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then what? Down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you sketch, the square root function. What would you do if it had a negative here in front? Well, instead of taking your little square root opening up to the top, you'd go underneath this way. But this is where the vertex would be. All right, this takes care of square root. The last one you'll see is cubic function. That's going to be in the next video. All right, good.